that wants to be there. And I think for a young coach and Coach Thompson, that might be a blessing in disguise for him, because he'll be able to weed out a lot of people that he may have had, more invested insight in, and go ahead and let those guys go if they don't appear to be the right kind of guys that buy into a system. Same thing for the coaching staff. We always try to make sure we're being objective and not criticize. But ultimately, for a new coach, it's going to be important for him to find out who's invested in the locker room scheme that he wants to present. Mm-hmm. And if you got guys that are going against the grain, you're going to have to get those guys out of there too as the head guy. And I've never been a head coach, but I've worked for some great ones. And the one difference is they don't have feelings when it comes to the game. Like, you leave the feelings outside of the locker room, and it's all about productivity and business once you step into the lines, as we say. So for a young coach, it's very hard to do that. That may be something that he may need to address in the offseason to make sure he gets maximum output out of the players, because what's happened clearly is players haven't bought in because they're not liking what they're seeing, and it may be because they're not responding to the coaches.
Could it be as well that you guys need to find a vocal enough leader inside the team itself to get everybody to buy in? I mean, I know we've talked about a lot of these guys like Carson and how much they mean to the team, but could it really just be that they need one of these guys just to, hold a players only meeting and say, dude, we got to buy in. This isn't the team we're supposed to be.
I agree 10,000%. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, that typically happens, and they lost some guys last year that did that on the offensive side of the ball, and we talked about that. You lost a couple of linebackers last year that were very vocal. This year, it does seem like everybody's kind of looking for the other person to create that spark, and not necessarily themselves. I mean, we talk about the running backs that we had last year as well too, and Jalen wasn't necessarily the vocal leader, but the guy was, a leader by example.
Led by example, yes.
And he was incredibly respectful. And on top of that, he carried a 4.0 GPA up at BC as well too. It's why he's up at Colorado Mesa right now running the ball. So there's some guys that are there, and there's some future leaders as well too that are freshmen. Not to mention, I've already started talking to them. I know that the coaches don't necessarily want to say that they're done with this season, but at the same time, they already do have their plans about who they want to talk to for next year, and they have seen some guys in the local area that they like as leaders. And their search is also going to go outside of Kern County. They want to bring in some guys that may not necessarily have gotten the offers that they wanted at Division I schools or even some Division II schools, and bring them over to BC and show them the facilities, because now that we've got everything rocking and rolling up there at Bakersfield College, man, a lot of these recruits are going to take a look and say, okay, I think I can star here.
What is the reach of the recruiting process for BC? Like, how far do they typically go?
I mean, as you see from guys like Tyrone Crawford, we'll go as far as Canada. Even reflecting back to my teams 20 years ago, we had maybe 20 East Coast guys from New Jersey, guys from Florida. So there's no limits to where we'll go to make sure we get the right guys. And I think that's important for our local guys to understand as well, because we've had some local guys get a lot of reps this year, even through some setbacks. Mm-hmm. And as I've said before, you always hear the stereotype that local guys don't play. It's just not true. The guys that can play, and we have to find those guys wherever they are. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a huge, huge statement that can be made leading towards the future, because if you look at our Bakersfield College rosters, every year we have a Bakersfield guy that's the guy, but we also have another 20 guys around them from all over the country that are willing to invest in this place and make this place home. I have teammates that played on my 94 team that still live here, and they are from North Carolina, Chicago, all of these places. That's one thing, I had an opportunity to say this yesterday at the Bakersfield Jockey Club Awards, and we talk about it all the time. Bakersfield is a beautiful place to begin your career and attach yourself to something that's historic. Mm-hmm. And players all over the country know that. So, if you're not wanting to be the guy and you're from here and you take this place for granted, there's a kid that's going to come from Hilton Head, South Carolina, or South Carolina, like my man George Jones, and become the greatest renegade running back of all time.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's true. I mean, again, at the end of the day, it's just picking people who could play. It doesn't matter if you're from here or if you're from Canada. They just want to find guys that could play. That's why I'm curious how far our reach is, because I know there's plenty of talent throughout this country and in other countries that would probably love to come play here for a little bit. Let's talk about the game coming up this weekend at home, East LA. What do we know about the guys, and what do we expect to happen?
They're a passing offense for the most part. They've got a running back in C.J. Bozeman that gets a majority of the carries, but again, you've got Logan Ebnet, who's their quarterback, and a big quarterback too, 6'2", 225. He can kind of move around, and he's really not scared. And one of the things that I've noticed again is that their offense, when it gets clicking, it's going. He's got 4 receivers that are averaging at least 4 catches a game. And so he throws it around a lot to, very basic spread offense that they're doing, and they're trying to basically get guys out of position to be able to complete some passes down the field. They have, though, had a struggle just like BC this year. They've been blown out in a couple of games. They got a win over Santa Ana like we did. So there's a lot of similarities between their team and ours. The only difference is that they've stuck with one guy at the quarterback position the whole way. And but I can say that the best defense that will step on the field that day by far should be the Renegades.
Yeah, and for ELAC, they do have Travion Baker and David Chukwuma, who are their leaders on defense that can fly around. So one thing we know about ELAC is our records usually don't dictate the intensity of the matchup. One year we had a bowl game there, and we're both 6-5 at the time, 5-5, and it was a very competitive contest based on the historic matchups that East LA and Bakersfield College have had. One of the most historic stadiums down there. We have one of the most historic stadiums up here. So it's always one of those games where records don't dictate the intensity. And it might be a good thing for us to face a team that's struggling, because we've been playing some very good teams over the last 5 weeks, guys. And I've said it before, when you're getting kicked in the teeth like we have been, sometimes it's easier on the soul to get a guy that you match up well with. We've played some juggernauts over the last, 4 out of the 5 games. And it's very easy for us to be critics when we're playing these high-powered teams and not getting the output that we want. So with a contest like this coming up, I'm excited for the team just to see if they can just find some happiness for yourself. And we always talk about it as commentators, is that we want to love you up, but we have a responsibility to just call it how we see it. And we haven't played very good football in recent weeks, and I hope no one blames us for that. But we've definitely had broadcasts where after the broadcast we're called into the office and say, "Hey guys, I know we're not playing too well, but can you lighten up a bit?" And we're trying, but we can't watch the game blind. We have to say what we see. So hopefully,
what's the saying? You can't put lipstick on a pig.
Yep,
you can't put a wig on a pig, man.
I think this is the week that we see a difference. And one thing I want to bring up, I'm a defensive guy, like I always say. I think the defense steps up this week. We just need a little help from the offense, and surprisingly, I think we need to clean up some special teams, and hopefully that was just a week of because that special team hurt us last week.
Yeah, you make a great point there.
Yeah, but they blew the line up a couple of times on those blocks, and again, Carlos Villa can only do what he does and kick the ball. He can't necessarily block for himself as well too. But again, Carlos Villa is also going to be the best kicker on the field as well too out there, because they struggle from the kicking game in that perspective. But I challenged everybody on the broadcast the other day, all the fans out there, come out, and like you said, it's free. Go check out Woolworths, at 3:00, and then come over to BC right after that. Watch these guys, because here's the thing, and Kenny can probably tell you this because he spent 2 years in the program, is that if you can get a few wins under your belt, make this a 5-5 team, and end the season on a positive note, off season is going to be so much more upbeat, and you're going to have a lot of different bullets in the chamber when you go out and you start recruiting people. Because yeah, maybe we did have a few hiccups throughout the season, but like Kenny said, for the teams that we've lost to this year, they're going to be in the mix for a state championship this year. I can guarantee you. Ventura, Golden West, and Cerritos are fantastic teams, and
Fullerton.
So all those 4 teams have an opportunity at winning a state championship. They really do. It's going to come down to, again, we talked about it. They're going to cannibalize each other over the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks because they're all playing each other. And
Yep, Cerritos has Golden West this week.
we're going to see, and you could see some very low scoring games, or you can see some games that are going to take 115 in the over.
100%. I mean, and again, I think you guys hit it on the head. I think we've just played some great teams this year, and BC is much better than this record actually shows. And like we said, it's a lot more fun to play in front of a massive crowd than it is to play in front of just your parents. So
Yep.
it's all
Weather's
about
gonna be
getting
great.
people there. It's all about just getting people in the door and just, I mean, again, it's free. What else do you got to do on Saturday outside going seeing Sparky's beautiful mug at the Woolworths opening? Same time, go down and listen to our guys Kenny and Rob Chavez on our sister station of Kern Radio as they call the game of BC against East LA. Before I let you guys go, obviously, we got to talk a little college football around the country. I have a story that I was going to bring up to Sparky and see what he thought about this as well, but I'll get your guys' thoughts. Texas A&M is the first SEC school to be fined $50K for faking an injury during a game. What do you guys think about this?
Well, the theatrics of the game have become like World Cup soccer. Like the situations we saw over the past weekend where you got guys faking and dropping down. It almost seems like they're being coached to do it in moments. And you have to get some structure around that because it's destroyed the rhythm of some games and sometimes it's just not enough of a penalty during the contest. You have to make schools be accountable for that.
Yeah, I was on the call for Garces Frontier, and I'm not going to say which team it was, but there was a 15-yard penalty that was assessed to one of those high school teams for faking an injury and trying to get a timeout.
Just tell us the color. We don't got to hear the team.
I like to stay in the good graces of some coaches around town, and they're good guys, and they're just again going with the trend, and that's how it is. But I tell you, USC probably should have faked a couple of injuries to keep the drive sustained.
Don't get me started. Jeremiah Love made us look so.
I felt bad for you guys.
Yeah.
That 100-yard kickoff was a stab to the heart, man.
Again, I felt like it was watching BC and Pasadena once again, and that's really what it felt like. Ripped the hearts out of the Trojans, but again, they still had the opportunity to win, but bad play calling. Not letting their guys do what they do in third and short situations. I mean, flea flickers, backwards passes. I don't know exactly what we're trying to do in that situation, but hey,
open the playbook, win and at any cost, Rob. That's what they're trying to do. Win at any cost. But we got to go, guys. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you guys.
All right, love you guys. Have a great week, fellas.
You too. This is the Early Bird Special. We will be right back after this break with our guy, John French from Guitars for Vets. This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield. Welcome back. Early Bird Special Hour 2 here on this Wednesday. I forgot the day for a second.
Big shout out to our boy Kenny and Renegade Rob. Go
Absolutely.
out there. There's so much stuff going on Saturday, so you can make appearances everywhere. It can be done. It can be done. We have our grand opening out at the Woolworths. We're shutting down 19th Street. We got 5 bands playing. Everyone will be out there. Plus, you can go out and helping our boy John French. And I'll just get it out of the way. I made a bet, and I knew going into the bet, starting Judkins in my fantasy team, knowing that the Dolphins don't put out an effort in any week, really. But I made a bet, another bet. I lost another bet.
You've
yes.
got to stop betting. This is why I haven't offered a bet
But
to you this week.
I've known John French since I was just a little baby.
Just a kid. Yeah.
And
wee lad.
he's the only Cleveland Browns fan I know, so I couldn't just
I
pass
just
it
told
up.
him that he's one of 2 for me. I know one family from Chicago that are, I'm sorry, not Chicago, from Ohio that are diehard Browns fans.
Oh, yeah.
But outside of that, I've not met a single one of you.
But
Oh,
it
we're
was
an anomaly. You know, we're out there.
It's
we're
hard to
lurking
root
in
for
the
a team
shadows.
that's nothing but pain. I mean,
but
especially at the
this
quarterback
guy has been a
position.
Browns fan pre-Bernie Kosar. So
Oh, yeah.
1974 is when I latched onto him. My cousins were teasing me. They're like, "You don't have a football team," and I think the Chiefs had just won, so he was bragging about being a Chiefs fan.
Was he?
In Bakersfield of all places?
Of
And,
course.
it was a Sunday afternoon, and the recaps were on. You know, the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. You know, and I looked at the screen. I said, "I got a football team. It's the Orange Helmets. That's my team." And and it's just been an abusive relationship since. For over 50 years now.
yeah, it was the same way with my dad. He was watching football as a little kid. I think he was 7 years old in '72, and he asked my grandpa, "Hey, who's that team with the fish on the helmet?" And he said, "That's the Dolphins." And he stayed with the Dolphins, and of course, that was the year they went undefeated.
Yep.
And ever since, it's just been a heartache. But congratulations! It was an easy bet for me because not only am I losing lunch,
Yep.
but I have a diner right below my office now,
Mhm.
so I can bring you down and get a Woolworths juicy burger anytime you're ready.
That sounds great. You know, the company will be the best part, though.
Yes.
To hang out. So
Anytime, my brother. But so let's get into this. So you started this organization, Guitars for Vets. How did it get all started?
well, the Kern Guitars for Vets project got started about 9 years ago. I play guitar in my bedroom to amuse myself, and love guitars and always have. And I bought a pawn. I went to the pawn shop one day, and that was back when they were dirt cheap before the pandemic. You know, they couldn't really give them away. And got a guitar real cheap. And a buddy of mine, Jim John Tony, who's since passed, rest his soul, took it to his house, and he set it up for me and made it playable because it was kind of a wreck. It was a Epiphone SG, you know, like an Angus Young guitar, and fixed it up. Plays like a $5,000 guitar. And I was on the way out, and I'd been thinking about this for a while. And I said, Jim, you know, what if I'm thinking about giving some guitars away, maybe foster kids and veterans, you know, they got a lot of struggles in life and some challenges. And, you know, I thought maybe that would help. And I said, if I wanted to do that, would you fix some guitars up for me? He goes, yeah. And I said, well, how much would you charge me? And he said, nothing. I said, well, how many can I bring? And he said, as many as you got. And from that little meeting on the porch, it just took off. And so what we do is any vet that's served in any branch of the service, we give them a free guitar, and we give them free lessons, no strings attached. No, I guess a pun intended, but
Nice.
We give them a free guitar and lessons. And, you know, the best part of this whole deal is after the lessons, when the vets get together and they support one another. A couple of years ago, we had some of the guys from the Korean conflict. This is back when we did keyboards as well. And they really showed a lot of love to the younger guys. And it was just amazing. We do lessons at the Portrait of a Warrior Gallery on Friday afternoons. And it was just amazing to see these older guys standing out there for an hour and a half, just with the younger guys supporting each other. So that's kind of how it got going. And, you know, we've been managed to fund it and support it. This last year, we had Cruising for Charity step up and give us a big donation, and so we're doing a big fundraiser this Saturday to raise funds for 2026.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
How can people get involved with the fundraiser?
Well, it's we're calling it the 2025 Halloween Spooktacular, and it's going to be a night of music at Crusader Brewing.
Nice.
The Crusader is veteran owned, and they support local vets. It's a fantastic place where vets can go and have a beer and talk and again support one another and hang out and just let the troubles of the world go and spend time. So we're gonna this Saturday. I went and talked to him and said, we'd like to have an event at your brewery. They brew the beer right there on the spot. And they said, sure, no problem. I said, I got 4 bands. They said, sure, no problem. I said, it's going to be, we're going to charge $15 at the door. And they said, sure, no problem. So they were like, dude, just take yes for an answer.
Yeah, right.
It's going to be okay.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So we've got 4 of some of the best bands in town. Our guitar teacher is Silo Ornalis. He's
Right
pretty
on.
well known around these
Yeah,
parts.
went to high school with him.
Yeah, great dude. I mean, he's got the energy of 15 people. And just a real heart and a real passion for the vets. He said, I've wanted to do this for years and years, and I'm glad we connected. So he's got 2 of his bands are going to be there. And we're going to have, let me get the bands up here. We're going to have Elevation 406. We're going to have Titan. And then we're going to have Mixed Signals and Hot Mess Express. And it's $15 at the door. That's like less than $4 a band, which is what a value, right?
Absolutely.
That way people can have money for some beers. And we're going to be starting at 6:00, and folks can just come out and pay $15 per person at the door and enjoy some great live music, dance the night away. It's Halloween, so put your costume on.
Heck yeah.
We'll have contests, everything.
That's fantastic. Now, do we have an address for Crusader Brewing?
We do.
Know
It's
where it is?
5880 District Boulevard.
So
it's not too far from the Home Depot and all that, and the big ice cream plant. It's there on the north side of District Boulevard. You pull in, and it looks like kind of a strip mall place. And when you walk into Crusader, it's kind of deceiving because it's just a little pub looking thing.
Absolutely.
And then you walk through the 2 doors, and there's a great big concert space, and you'll see all the steel vats and everything. They make the aluminum vats or stainless steel vats they make the beer in, and big space for everybody to kind of stretch out, have some room to enjoy themselves.
And $15 for a full concert essentially is a pretty dang good deal.
Absolutely, yeah.
And all of it goes to Guitars for Vets, I assume?
Goes to Kern Guitars for Vets project.
Fantastic.
And we've got a flyer on our Facebook group. And if there's any vets out there that want to sign up, there's a flyer there as well with the QR code. We made it super simple. Just put your cell phone camera over the QR code, and you sign up. It's that simple.
Fantastic. And I mean, honestly, I love the story because it just shows again how magnanimous this community is.
Yeah.
I mean, for him to fix up all of those guitars for no price whatsoever.
Yes.
I don't think people really realize how expensive it is to fix just music equipment in general, let alone a guitar.
Right.
And I mean, how many of you guys given away at this point? Do you know?
Oh gosh, we've
probably a ridiculous amount.
Away, probably about 400 guitars this year.
And that's what I'm saying.
This year alone, probably close to 60 vets. We're shooting for trying to get 100. We got a couple months left in this before year's end, and we're going to be starting groups up here next week, as a matter of fact. So
fantastic.
If vets want to sign up, it's super easy. And we have Wednesday night groups at Silo Studio on New Horizons. And then we have groups on Fridays from 1 to 2. A lot of the guys wanted a daytime group.
And real quick, before I bounce it back to you, Spark, talk about the lessons real quick and how that benefits these veterans, like how it can really help them with just focusing on something that's not, the world around you right now, as well as maybe just learning a new skill and, having fun with it.
Well, Tom Petty said it best. He goes, music is one of the true magics that exist in this world, and, I myself, went through kind of an upbringing and, just having that guitar, I'd sit in my room and just play guitar, and, the cares of the world kind of drift away. And And it's the same for the vets. It's a cathartic experience for some people. When you write songs and you communicate your experiences, communicate your emotions. And again, music is just one of those things that can sweep you away. We all have a song that takes us somewhere, right? And so with the lessons, a lot of the guys have never played guitar before. So having Silo is such a benefit because he teaches them the basics of it. And they get the, 5-6 magical chords that Eagles and Tom Petty and Leonard Skinner and Creedence all made millions of dollars off of. If you know 5 or 6 chords, you can play a whole bunch of songs. I know Taylor Swift's done it for years and years.
Absolutely.
She's a billionaire. So,
hey man, she found her husband because of it too. It's okay.
Yeah,
everything worked out for the better.
So it's a real opportunity for a person. I work at mental health full time, Kern County Mental Health and Kern Behavioral Health now. And, something called mindfulness, and it's just focusing on the moment, being present in the moment. And, guitar playing is one of the best forms of mindfulness there is. When you're thinking about that, you're not thinking about, a lot of other stuff. And it also brings joy. It gets, dopamine, going in your system. And so for the vets, it's a chance to come and fellowship with other vets. We've had guys say, this is the first time I've been out in a while. And I've gotten to know a lot of the local vet community, and we lose a vet to suicide. I think it's every 22 minutes or something like that. Yeah. And it's a chance for these guys to get together and support each other instead of just on social media. And it's been a real blessing, and it's a real pleasure to be able to be a part of this.
Well, that was going to be my last comment was, I've worked with a lot of vets, whether it was with the podcast or just out in the community, great people out at the Portrait of a Warrior Gallery. I was introduced to one of my best friends now, Dan Betts, who was in the military, and now he's doing comedy. And, it's a sad story sometimes if you don't know just the basis, but a lot of these vets, they spent a lot of time fighting for our country, and then they come back and they don't know what to do with themselves. So whether it's mental health or just, there's some nonprofits that I've talked to recently. There's ones that, help with animals or, getting them back into the mix, getting them back on a routine, because really that's what it is. Whether it's, a lot of them will come back and, dip into drugs or dip into alcohol or get depressed of, what they've missed out on or what they're coming back to. So just these little small, projects that, started on out front of your house talking with the buddy. And now look at you, 400 guitars out to vets, guys like Silo stepping in and, helping these guys. And that's really just a hobby to help out some vets and get their mind right. And music is the most beautiful way to find that. So I really appreciate what you do for our community and our vets. And if you can't come out, man, you can find them on Facebook. Yeah, it's Kern Guitar for Vets.
Kern Guitars for Vets Project. And again, we're going to be out at 5880 District Boulevard at Crusader Brewing. Doors are at 6. 4 live bands. Put on your costume. Don't put on your costume. Come out, support. And the good news is it's an all ages show. So if you bring the kids, people say, well, 4 bands, that's going to take a long time. I'm 60 years old. So, sitting through, 6 hours or something, but it's gonna go till about 11 o'clock is
for a good cause.
So,
and once you sit down and have that first beer, it's not gonna matter. It's gonna fly by.
It won't matter. And they've got, I tell you what, their brewery puts out fantastic product, And I just want to thank the Portrait of a Warrior Gallery. They've been so supportive all year. One of my friend's dad, his name's Greg Pierce. His dad has a portrait there, and I've talked to so many people whose
I haven't heard that name in so long.
Friends, acquaintances that have portraits there. It's really a memorial to our fallen heroes here in Kern County. They just opened up a dog tag room, and there's thousands of dog tags of those that, the Bible says there's no greater love than he who laid down his life for his brother. And everybody that served in the military has that heart. They are willing to go lay their life down for the cause of freedom and the defense of our nation and our families. And so thank you to the vets. Thank you to Portrait of a Warrior Gallery. And thank you to Crusader Brewer. And Thanks to
Absolutely.
you guys. Early Bird Special. Love the show.
Appreciate that.
I
I
gotta
appreciate
tell
that
ya.
a lot. And
Yeah.
honestly, we appreciate all vets on this show as well. We also, with our sister station, help raise some money for Honor Flight and all that type of stuff. So if you do have some money or even a broken guitar you don't use
Yes.
anymore,
Yeah.
I mean, reach out to these guys, give as much as you possibly can, because these guys deserve it. They really, really do.
They really do. And I always tell the guys, we owe you more than a guitar, but we can get started with
Exactly. And I mean, anything to get started, I think, is the best way forward.
this. Yes,
So,
absolutely.
sir, thank you so much for your
Thank
time. We
you.
appreciate you coming on. Actually, before I let you go, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask Dylan Gabriel or Shador Sanders. Which one do you want?
Let's go ahead and give Shadur a shot.
See, they're already giving up on him.
And if it works out, well, I saw that Gabriel, and I was like, I guess is he 6 feet tall?
I don't even know if he cracked 6 feet. I think he's about the same height as me.
Yeah, he's
About
kind of
5'10",
like,
5'11". I might be wrong
as tall
on
as
that, though.
Tua, I think.
Oh,
So-
Drew Brees. Hey, come on.
Drew Brees. Yeah,
Drew Brees is a
great.
better
Yeah.
comparison. I think it's a better
Yeah.
comparison.
Yeah, I
I'm
could
talking
talk
about Tua.
Browns forever. I tell you, I talk football, but let's get Shadur out there. Let's give him a shot. If it doesn't work out, we can move on from it because I thought it was a distraction in the beginning.
Right.
I'm still salty about Baker. I still root for Baker. Baker's amazing.
Mhm.
He's doing a fantastic job. Sad game Monday night, but they'll bounce back.
I do hope and pray one day the Cleveland Browns shake the moniker of where quarterbacks go to die. So,
Well, we have four. What we have, I think we got 4 world titles
Yeah,
before
that's
there was
true.
an NFL. You can't take
this
those
is true.
away.
This is absolutely fair.
65, I think, was the last one, or 68, something like. Jim Brown was still on the team.
Golly, I thought the basketball team had a drought. Good Lord. Sir, thank you so much for your time. We
Appreciate
really
you.
appreciate it. And we hope to have you back soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. We got to take a break real quick, pay some bills. This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield. God, it's been a while since I've heard this one.
One of the best covers.
I was gonna say, is Disturbed one of those bands that people don't talk enough about?
And they kill it with covers.
They really do. Well, they kill it with songs in general. Their
Ah.
own stuff's not that
The
bad.
last couple albums have been.
I mean, fair, but it's kind of like the Taylor Swift thing. You got to
Oh,
admit at some
gosh.
point they're not going to be as good as the best. Come on, like eventually they're going to go downhill.
Well, when you're
Eventually,
when you are that good,
I mean,
people
look
are
at
going to critique everything.
Linkin Park. I mean,
I love the
It's not the
Linkin Park
same.
album. That new Linkin Park album is awesome, dude. You have to give it a chance.
oh no, I'm going to listen to it. Don't get me wrong.
You
I
haven't
just
listened
have
to it
work,
yet?
No, I have to work my way around it. Okay.
Oh, my God.
I have to find a reason to listen to her voice. It's not the same, and you don't understand how much this band meant to me as a child. Let's go into our waiver wire Wednesday, though, because we got to help you guys win your fantasy football leagues this week. And to be honest with you, it is getting to crunch time. If you don't have a team that's in the race right now, you need to either figure it out and turn it around or just give up on it altogether, because it's really hard to come back if you're in 12th place. It really is. But at this point, I got a couple here for you. I know Sparky's got a couple here for you. So let's go down the line, starting with quarterback, at least for me this week. I'm going with Aaron Rodgers.
Ugh.
I know. It's not great, but hear me out on this. He's playing his Packers Sunday night. Aaron Rodgers in main games, or main event games, I should say, or Sunday night, Monday night games, thrives. He just had a 4-touchdown game against the Cincinnati Bengals last week on Thursday night, has had plenty of time to get ready for his former team. And to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure on what this defense looks like with the Green Bay Packers, even with Micah Parsons. That although he has been wreaking havoc on quarterbacks, they haven't exactly looked great. So if anything, I'm expecting Rodgers to at least drop 2 to 3 touchdowns, with Artie Smith and Tomlin looking to bounce back from that bad loss against the Cincinnati Bengals.
At the quarterback, I went with Joe Flacco, as he's under rostered. He's around 10% rostered. And he showed that, he has some in his tank, but really, I just think being in that offense with the receivers he's got now, they got Chase Brown moving like he's a running back again. I think Joe Flacco might be a good pickup, especially with these buys here and there coming up. And I know in most of my fantasy leagues, we're halfway. We're at the halfway point. So if you're right in the middle, you're fighting to get in. I have a quarterback that has a bye next week, so I picked up Flacco myself.
Honestly, I considered it. I really, really did, but I liked Aaron a little bit more this week, just after that 4-touchdown game he had last week. But to be honest with you, I did kind of find it a little bit funny that once they got Joe Flacco, the offensive line magically remembered how to block. Maybe Jake Browning wasn't as good of a quarterback as people thought he was. Let's move on to the running back position. Personally, I picked this guy, well, mostly because I love him, but at the same time, because of matchups. Tyler Algier from the Atlanta Falcons. If you can pick up this boy, I'm telling you right now, sorry, Spark, but Atlanta's going to be running all day long against the worst run defense in the league. And I would not be surprised to see Tyler Algier see the end zone at least once in this game. And he traditionally does against weaker defenses, especially when Bijan needs a break. So I would ride with Tyler this week.
And if you can still get him, I would as well, especially when he's playing the Dolphins. I went and I grabbed Monangai.
I almost put him on my list, but I'm skeptical that they're going to continue this 2-back thing.
What I've heard this weekend is obviously Swift is the starter, but they're going to start mixing them in, and
he looked good
in running backs. I'm just saying
he looked good against.
They're hit and miss. I mean, I've been just picking up waiver guys every week, so I'm picking up this guy. I think he's got an upside. And especially how hot and cold Swift gets, I think it might be, especially with Ben Johnson's offense over there in Chicago.
I saw he was the number 1 waiver pickup of the running backs this week, and I immediately said, "Is DeAndre hurt? Did I miss something?"
I was like, "What?
Like, did I miss something here?" And then I looked and said, "Oh no, they just figured out a 2-back system, and now DeAndre is not going to have to run 50 times during a game for Chicago to be successful." Moving on to the wide receiver position, I'm going with Tez Johnson with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, Tampa Bay's wide receiver room is banged up. Mike Evans probably gone for the rest of the season. Chris Godwin is questionable. Ibuka is still dealing with an injury, but he'll most likely play. Tez Johnson will most likely step into that Chris Godwin situation, be the speed threat for him. Baker has shown at least that he could trust him a little bit more. I think he had 10 targets in the last game. And to be honest with you, with how thin this team has gotten with their targets, at least between him and Auden, I think it's going to be most likely Tez Johnson getting a lot of these looks. So I would go with Tez.
I totally agree with that one. With my receiver, I went with Xavier Legette in Carolina. He's picking up the carry, or
He
he's
really
looking
is.
at the targets. I know, is it Dalton this week?
Yes, it should. Well, that's still on the. It's kind of like Michael Penix right now. It's up in the air. They're expecting Dalton to start.
Well, the last 2 games, Legette has gotten 9 targets and 6 targets. Last week, he had 92 yards and a touchdown. And now that the targets are starting to share with their winning streak, yes, the Panthers. I'm just saying.
We got a
there's
promo
lot of
running.
bye
You
weeks.
heard
It
what I
might be-
said.
It might be the playoff Panthers here in a couple of weeks. We'll talk about that. But I think Legette could be a nice sleeper, especially if you have guys on a bye or injury. And dude, I'm so mixed up because a couple of the receivers I was looking at, well, in Washington, with all the injuries that they've had with the receiver, plus Jaden, they got some positive news that Jaden isn't going to be out for the season. But they haven't made any. He's listed as questionable this week. But with Debo, he's questionable. McLaurin has been getting back into practice, but didn't play last week. So I think there's also, you might want to keep an eye out on who is starting at receiver in Washington if either of those guys are both out.
This is a good point. But to be honest, with Marcus Mariota as the quarterback, it's also kind of hard to trust any of the receivers because can Marcus even get them the ball? And if Jaden is out for the rest of the season, at least he can rehab with Juju, who decided not to play at all this year for USC. Good Lord. My tight end pick for this week, I'm going to butcher this guy's name. I know I am, and I apologize going forward to Charger fans, but
Aronde Gadsden.
Aronde Gadsden. Absolutely. That's the guy I'm choosing. And it's only because how bad this offensive line has been banged up for the Chargers. Justin has to run a lot. He's going to be looking for these big targets, these short yardage guys, especially against Minnesota, who blitzes a ton and will blitz a ton against this banged up offensive line. So I would expect Gadsden to get a lot of looks from Herbert this week.
And he has. I picked the same thing. I love Gadsden, not only because his dad was a Miami Dolphin longtime receiver, but of course, he blew up for his first game. We're starting against Miami.
Of course.
And he's had 8 to 10 targets each game after that. And the kid has, he's got skills. I think that even when the offensive line starts to recover, I still think Gadsden's going to be a pass catching for Herbert.
And for a team that's been looking for a good or a great tight end, I should say, since Antonio Gates left, I know they had Hunter Henry for a short moment, who was pretty solid for him, but wasn't the greatest. I think that they have been desperately looking for that game changer at tight end. And honestly, who's to say Gadsden's not that guy? Who knows? We'll see what we will see as the season progresses. That is our waiver wire pickups for you guys. The week. Hopefully those help you guys win your fantasy football matchups this week. Personally, I am absolutely riddled with injuries thanks to Amari and Hampton, Joe Mixon, and Mike Evans all being out most likely for the foreseeable future. And that does not bode well for your boy, but it is what it is. Let's take a break real quick. On the other side, we'll get to these outstanding NBA games that happened last night. Double overtime thriller between the Thunder and the Rockets as KD and the Rockets got away with two missed calls at the end of that first overtime, and I will explain why here in a minute. This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield. Welcome back. This is the early bird special. Right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 101.1 FM, 1230 AM. As the liner just said, you can watch us every single weekday from 7 to 9 on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Go and follow, like, subscribe. We're almost at, I think, 100 subs on YouTube. I'm not 100% sure on that one. But like I said, just like, subscribe, hit the bell. You'll know every single time we go live every single morning, 7 to 9. We got any text messages before we get into this NBA talk?
We do. The first one says JETS, Jets suck.
Yep. I mean, that's a universal note, I think, at everybody.
I think we've been saying it, but I think if anybody is going to bring any power, not a lot of power, don't get crazy, but I think Tyrod Taylor with the Jets starting, I think they'll look a little better, especially if you got guys like Brees Hall or whatever. It might be worth starting at least to see what Tyrod looks. I think they'll be able to at least throw the ball a couple times more. But the other text says, I think my Raiders are going to finally trade Jacoby, and I'm thinking he'll be a Steeler or a Buffalo Bill. My question is, do you think I should keep him on my fantasy team in case he has a better season elsewhere?
Yes, because in both of those instances, either the Steelers or the Bills, if you're correct, he has a better quarterback throwing in the football.
He'll be fed.
Yeah, he'll be fed. And trust me, Jacoby is a stud. Jacoby has been a stud. Like, I don't understand why the Raiders underutilize him. He's been underutilized, though, his entire career, even his short time with the Patriots as well. So it would not be surprising to me to see him end up on a team like Buffalo and have them utilize him to the extent of his abilities, because this guy can really be a great wide receiver. And I know teams like Buffalo definitely need a guy like him right now.
And we're over maybe around 2 weeks before the
Somewhere
trade
around that,
deadline.
yeah.
So I think that's going to start picking up after this weekend. The last text says, do I go with Dart or Flacco?
Personally, I like Dart, but Joe, like Sparky said, does have an upside. I think Cincinnati likes playing with Joe Flacco, and having Joe Flacco there, although probably a little more knowledgeable on the plays because he had no idea what the heck he was doing during the game against the Steelers, apparently. I think that they're going to be a little bit better. I think that they will at least put up a fight in a lot of these games, whether they'll win or not and come back at the AFC North. The jury's still out, but I would personally go with Jackson Dart. I think he's looked good and looked better in every single game he's been in so far this year, even though they lost a couple of these, and his points, at least in fantasy football, have increased every single week. So I would say go with the rookie.
And speaking of that division, it looks like Lamar hasn't practiced either. So even after the bye week, they're still not with Lamar. But going into the NBA after the season opener last night, man, I got home right in time for overtime
125, 124, baby.
and sat through the whole thing. And man, that last 5 minutes of the double overtime,
that was exciting basketball.
and I was like, what is SGA missing all these free throws? He's gonna blow this game. And of course, when you get into like the sixth quarter of a basketball game, people start dropping with being fouled out, and they were just tired as hell. You could tell. But what'd you get out of that game?
So I know you were worried about the free throws, but realistically, watching the whole game as I did, he didn't look good for the first 3 quarters of the game.
Yeah,
to be honest with you, he did not look like MVP SGA at all. And if it wasn't for guys like Wallace and guys like Chet, this game would have been a blowout early. But the Thunder able to do what they usually do, which is turn it around, find a way to win. And this game was honestly no different. I think we saw a clash of 2 of the best teams in the West last night. I love what I saw from the Rockets as well, and KD and how they're going to perform. Sengun is a stud. I think he ended with 39. And I mean, again, this is a guy, when they traded for Kevin Durant, I was shocked that they got rid of Jalen Green instead of him. I'm completely wrong. This seems like the dude that you really want to put the money behind is Sengun rather than Jalen Green, but that's beyond the point. My biggest takeaway, though, and I was thinking about our guy Daily Dave yesterday while I was watching this game, there were 2 really bad no calls at the end of this game, or at least at the end of overtime 1, I should say. Because for those of you who are watching, the first one was coming down, I believe, the second or third to last possession for the Rockets. Jabari Parker with the ball right at the top of the key, has no one to pass to, clearly picks up his pivot foot and move that way. the entire team wanted, or the entire Thunder team wanted a travel call that was not called. They called a timeout and were able to keep the possession and score on that possession nonetheless when they came back from the timeout. But the most egregious one to me was at the end of overtime one, Kevin Durant jumping up for that rebound, grabbing it, clearly calling a timeout, having Sengun run up to him and say, no, we don't have anymore. He doesn't call that. And the referees just ignoring it as if he didn't say timeout, which, yes, as Sparky just said, in NBA basketball, when you call a timeout without any timeouts left, that's a technical foul, giving a free throw to the opposite team, which most likely would have sealed the victory for the Oklahoma City Thunder. There was clearly a second and a half left on that clock when he called a timeout. The technical should have been called. We should never have gotten in second overtime. Luckily, ball don't lie, and the Thunder walked away with a W last night. But that I thought was a little egregious. And I know we've been talking all week long about how referees have been missing calls and how I keep saying these guys are human. You got to realize sometimes they just don't see something.
I just pictured Snacks cringing and yelling.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Our boy Snacks wouldn't have missed that. He would have called that right there on the nope, tech, boom. So SGA, get to the line. Let's wrap this up. Let's go.
With 81 games left with either team, I mean, that is how you want to start a season. Absolutely. With a sixth quarter season opener. But going into the later game, which was the Warriors and the Lakers, and as advertised, you know, we got Luka and we got Jimmy Butler, even Kuminga. I mean, that was a hell of a game as well. I was falling in and out, but Luka looks like Luka.
Absolutely. And I think Snacks hit it on the head. I think losing the weight, you could see a different kind of game in Luka. He's quicker, he's nimble, but at the end of the day, it's the LeBron-less Lakers. Had LeBron been on the court last night, I think that game probably would have went the other direction. But I mean, at this point, he's dealing with sciatica. Next up is, cataracts on the eye and glaucoma and every other disease he's going to be dealing with as a 40-year-old man playing basketball, apparently. But at this point right now, the Lakers look good even with the loss. I mean, Jimmy Butler, I think, is going to need to step up, though, for the Warriors for them to be relevant at all this year. As much as I love Steph, and he's still Steph Curry, he can still shoot the lights out in any gym. The more I watch this team, the more I think that the mentality and the identity of the Warriors is going to be leaning more towards the rough, tough play of guys like Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green, rather than what we usually saw when they had Steph and Clay and the nimbleness and the screens and finding three-pointers. I think that the identity of this Warriors team this year needs to be defense, and it needs to be rough, tough, gritty play between Butler, Kuminga, Steph and Draymond in order for them to be successful.
Kuminga looked good.
He did. I still am not a huge believer in him, though, to be completely honest with you. They struggled last year to make it to the playoffs. I think they'll struggle again this year to make it to the playoffs. Hopefully, they're able to put something together to actually make a run. But the Warriors of old are no longer, I feel. And at this point, they're fighting upwards, especially after watching that game right before them with SGA and the Thunder and KD and the Rockets looking so dang good. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if the Rockets had a pure point guard,
that's what they're missing.
If Van Fleet was on the court last night and didn't get injured during the offseason, that probably would have been a different game as well. Because that is definitely what they're missing. And they will address that at some point during the season. Ime Udoka will not be able to sit there all season without a pure point running the game. And when you have a pure point guard that could dish out to guys like Sengun and KD and Jabari and Thompson, boy, it's going to be hard to beat this young Rockets team. It really
I know there's
is.
some good games tonight. I know your Cavs are playing the Knicks. Yep. I know Hart and who else is it? Robinson is out for the Knicks. I mean, it's still going to be a hell of a game. My Bulls are playing the Pistons that everyone is drooling over.
I think the Spurs and the Dallas Mavericks are tonight as well. We get to see Wemby against Cooper Flagg. That'll be interesting. And the first step of this entire Cooper Flagg experiment, I guess, for Dallas at this point, because they're trying to put something together on the court with him and Kyrie and Clay and what they have had after this whole Luka Doncic trade last year. How do you feel about them? I mean, I could be convinced that this could be one of those teams to look out for in the West if they could actually find a way to utilize all the pieces that they have.
That's what it is. I think that's if they could put the pieces together. And Dallas doesn't usually do that very well with,
Mm.
with this guy, but
Well,
we'll
I mean-
see. I like Flag. I'm looking forward to seeing what this kid has.
Signing Jason Kidd to a long-term contract,
Is a
though,
good
although
step.
it was way longer than we expected it to be. I mean, again, not the contract, but the amount of
past
time it
due.
took to actually sign this guy to a long-term contract, which means there must have been a lot of negotiating being done to convince Jason to stay. Because let's not forget, he was eager and ready to jump ship and go to the Knicks.
I wish he would have.
I honestly wish he would have too. And now we're hearing Tom Thibodeau walking or taking meetings with all of these other teams, including the Boston Celtics.
Tell him how to beat him.
Oh man. I mean, again, that is genius to me, just because if I'm a coach walking around trying to find a job, that's the one thing I'm going to teach you is exactly how to beat you. I know how to beat you. So you want me on your staff just so I don't go tell so-and-so how to beat you in the playoffs. And honestly, I don't want to see that man anywhere near Boston.
Well, he's still getting paid from New York. So
I know, but I don't, not in the sense of,
oh no, I do not.
I
See
don't
him in
want
Boston.
him contributing to Boston at
No.
all. I don't need Boston getting better. Are we nuts? No. Somebody fire, somebody hire this man just so Boston can't have him. Please.
Do it, Chicago.
Oh my God. Let's take a break real quick. On the other side, we'll get to your last text messages of the day. Plus, I'll play this Chris Collinsworth audio for you as well, talking about the PFF grading and what he had to say about JJ Watt and Chris Long and all these other former players coming out in disapproval. This is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special, final segment of the day here on ESPN Bakersfield, 101.1 FM, 1230 AM. I thank our guys, Kenny Calvin and Rob Chavez, as well as our guy, John French from Guitars for Vets. Again, if you have any money to donate to Guitars for Vets or an old guitar you don't use anymore, one that's broken of that nature, donate it to them. They'll be able to turn it around, make it look good again, and give it to a veteran in need. And to be honest with you, it's a great cause. It's something that these guys desperately deserve. And any kind of love towards these veterans is a good thing. Trust me. Like I said, with our sister station, we were able to raise some money for Honor Flight once again with the Ralph Bailey show and whatnot. Thank you, everybody, for donating, and we're a part of that as well. But before we get out of here, I got to play Chris Collinsworth. We talked about it in the early part of the show, this entire gripe against the PFF grades and rankings and whatnot. You heard from you heard from JJ Watt, who vehemently says, just get rid of them. They're awful. The grades are awful. Just don't use them anymore. Don't put them on television. Chris Long went on his podcast, said pretty much the exact same thing. You're discrediting players by putting this up there. I mean, Patrick Mahomes being 16th out of whatever is still ridiculous in itself. I think they have I think Aaron Rodgers actually is somewhere in like 29th to 35th or something like that. Like it's a ridiculous grading system that is kind of skewed, and they have a very valid point. You really don't know what you're talking about unless you go talk to the coaches and know what these players' jobs were on that day, because it's not the same and it's not uniform throughout. But let's hear from Chris Collinsworth, the owner of PFF and also one of the more notable sports commentary guys, who had this to say about all the players who are very, very, very upset about the grading system.
Thanks for the attention. You're helping our sales. I mean, it's sort of.
What do you think when you're hearing these conversations?
Thanks for the attention. You're helping our sales. I mean, it's sort of ironic that we've had other coaches that have complained much louder to me about this, right? And those guys would call me and I would say, Coach, come on in, meet my guys, look at our system, pick it apart, do anything you want. I just take a look at the whole thing. Of those coaches, one of them asked for and did buy into our company. One of them asked to buy into the company and said he couldn't afford it. And another one endorsed cutting a player based on PFF grades with the team that he was with. So a lot of people have their own opinions. You know, we grade things, we evaluate things. You know, Bijan Robinson has a couple of fumbles and, you know, that's hurt his grade. And he's arguably been the best back in all of football this year. So there's always a complaint, but, you know, we've spent literally tens of millions of dollars trying to perfect this system. Every NFL team, every college team, every Canadian Football League team has it. We're building the same thing for soccer right now around the world. Everybody uses it. Every announcer, almost, other than a couple, you know, JJ, come on over. We'll open the doors. We'll give you anything you want for your announcing. But yeah, I think it's easy to criticize if you haven't seen how the potato chips are made, but open invitation to all those guys, anybody that wants to come in and take a look, debate, argue, sit down, pound the table. We've had a lot of people do it in the past, and we'll have a lot of people that'll do it in the future, but we invite everybody.
Comments on this, Spark? I mean, this is essentially what I expected him to say. If you have a problem, come down here and tell it to our face.
Yeah.
He don't care. He does not care about any of these players' gripes against his thing. And
well, he's got money involved with it. So
yeah,
that's
absolutely
a weird way to answer that when it comes down to, oh, you know, a coach wanted to be, and it was too pricey, and, you know, he was going to cut a player because of our
Well, I
ratings.
think that's like, three separate coaches he's talking about there too. And that's the other argument that players are using as well, is that teams are now using these grades as reason to pay or not pay certain players. Ergo, you got Mike Evans, who wants a bigger contract, but he gets graded 58th out of 275.
So he's going to get paid like a 58th one.
Exactly. And that's what teams want. They're like, oh, yeah, no, any excuse not to pay these guys the money they deserve. We're all for it.
Different game, different team, different system.
It's so weird. But again, at the same time, I get the gripes on the player side. I get the, Chris Collinsworth not really caring about it too at the same time. Because
I like the analytics, but
it helps some people. But I have to agree. The grading system is kind of ridiculous to me. I had someone text in before we get out of here that a Sky Moore got like a 90 grade on 3 snaps in that game against Atlanta. And he's over Christian McCaffrey, who crushed all game. So like I said, they just need to be a little more upfront on how these grades are made. That's really the long and short of it. That's all we got for you guys today. We got to get out of the way for the great Rich Eisen. Sparky, let's get out of here.
Cage.